So we should be starting any minute, just waiting for it to go live.
This meeting is being live streamed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, here we go. Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening. This is Coach Carla Joy and Rev Deb and friends. And we're really happy to have you here with us this evening on Doctor's Orders, where every week we remind you to eat more fruits and vegetables. Why am I here? I'm here because I too suffered for many years from painful periods, and this might be too much information for some people, but it was really an intense time for me every time my period rolled around. So I was really glad to hear that there may be something that we could do. And I went for many years not knowing what to do, trying different things, pain relief, exercising, walking, meditating, and a lot of prayer. And it's awesome to find the work of Dr. Neil Barnard, which shows us that there is something that we can do. And so I'm going to be reporting on one of his sessions. He's the author of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and the author of the book, Your Body in Balance. So I recommend, as he does in his presentation, that you visit your local library and borrow the book and hear what he has to say on what we can do to make a difference with our hormones. So this evening, I'm going to be giving you a short synopsis of the information he provided. And this he did on his a call that was taped several years ago. But I hope this will be a benefit to all of you. So he starts by explaining that a woman called him and explained how painful her periods were, and she had to fly out of town. She wanted to know if he could provide a prescription for a very powerful pain medication. And he did, because he understood her situation and he understood the situation of many of us. Did you know that 1 in 10 women suffers from inordinate, painful, or heavy bleeding periods? I didn't know that there were so many of us that suffered this way. So his question to himself was, I'll help her by giving her the pain relief now. But what happens next month? Is there something we could do to turn this around? And I am the proponent of a healthy U-turn. And so I was so curious to hear what would he say. All of the information he provides is based on research. And the first research study he talked about was taking several women and placing half of them on diet transformation and the other half of them on a supplement. It turned out that the supplement was a placebo. In other words, it was like a sugar pill, no additional, nothing that could have an effect. And they took that course for 2 months, and then they switched. So those that were on the placebo started the dietary change, and those that were on the dietary change went back to their original eating plan and just took the placebo. So this experiment was done at the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology of a very well-known university, and they found that those who had been on the dietary change, within those 2 months, they began to see a reduction in their symptoms, reduced pain, reduced intestinal discomfort, reduced PMS symptoms, and they also experienced increased fertility. One of the participants in the program, she came to him and said, I've got bad news and good news. The bad news is I have to drop out of the study. The good news is I'm pregnant, because they had been told not to use any hormones, especially for contraception, because there would be no way for them to know if there are changes in the hormones due to the diet in this particular example. So she had been diagnosed previously as infertile. She and her husband had tried for many years to try to get pregnant. And after this during the dietary intervention, she discovered that she was pregnant and actually went on to have two more children. So the first question he addresses is, what are hormones? And he made the analogy that hormones are chemicals produced in your body, and think of them like letters being sent out from an office, and they're being sent all over the country. But you could get a situation where some houses didn't get any letters or only a few, and some houses got too many letters. And so he described the situation with the hormones, that these are chemicals produced in one part of the body and they're sending messages to other parts of the body. And so that was the analogy that he gave. So he said that what happens during a woman's body is that right after a period, that her estrogen levels, which are relatively low, start to increase and increase and increase. And then in about 2 weeks, they suddenly drop. And with that sudden drop, there is a release of an egg with what we know as ovulation. And that egg, having been released, is now available for fertilization. And the uterus is now ready, is going to start getting ready for that fertilized egg to implant so that it could nurture it through the pregnancy. So during the following 2 weeks, the estrogen levels rise and rise and rise. And if implantation does not occur, the estrogen levels finally decline. And with that gradual decline in estrogen, um, the lining of the uterus, which had been building up because of the estrogen, starts to be released and the menstrual cycle starts again. So, what the question then is, can what we eat impact this process? So, when you realize that if there's the estrogen floating around in the body is too high, and the uterus lining gets too thick, they produce chemicals called prostaglandins. And these prostaglandins are what cause the pain that are associated with painful periods. So the question is, are there specific foods that can impact this process? And he said the number one food that we can think about is cheese. In fact, all dairy products, animal milks, animal butters, yogurts, and creams. Why? Because they come from animals that have been that carry estrogen. Now, it might not be huge amount of estrogens, but the fact that the cows from which the milk comes are usually kept pregnant for extended periods of time, their estrogen tends to be higher. So that estrogen from the cheese, the dairy products, the milk, the butter, the yogurt can lead to weight gain, abdominal pain, painful periods. So if the cheese and dairy products were removed from the diet, from people who had been diagnosed with painful period or endometriosis, where think of the uterus lining cells having got out of the uterus and being deposited around the abdominal cavity so that they create pain and scarring. um, when you change the diet, all of these things go away. Removing the cheese and the dairy products reverses the weight gain, the stomach issues, and the period pains. And he gave a specific example of a woman who was diagnosed with severe endometriosis, and her physician was planning to remove her uterus because he felt that that would cure her situation. Because her body would not be cycling, her uterus wouldn't be cycling through those periods, and therefore he felt that the uterine tissue in her body would not be causing pain. So She made the change of removing all the animal products. She was only eating plants and a very, very low oil meal plan. And 6 weeks later, when she was supposed to have the surgery, she was feeling better, but the surgery had already been planned. The surgeon was going to do a laparoscopic procedure. So when he put the scope into her abdomen, he found that there were no more lesions, no more endometrial lesions. So he didn't do the hysterectomy. He realized that her situation was drastically reversed. And her mother said, oh, she went vegan. She took all the plants, all the animal products out. She was just totally plant based. And he said, oh, no, it's not that. What we're witnessing here is a miracle. And so Dr. Barnard says he thinks that's actually on her chart, that she experienced a miracle because the doctor did not believe that the food had anything to do with it. Well, she went on to become the mother of 3 children herself and actually participates in Dr. Barnard's Food for Life program. I've actually attended his Food for Life program. My friends and I would drive into DC to have once a week to participate in that program and to learn about how to cook meals that are healthy, that are low in fat, and are purely plant based. So again, why is cheese the number one product that you can remove? Because of the cows. The cows themselves have high estrogen levels, higher than a cow that's not pregnant. And the milk produced therefore contains the estrogen hormone, and that's being added to what your body already makes. So this impact is not only on women, it also impacts men. And dairy products can result in, based on what he was sharing, that you might begin to see erectile dysfunction. He referred to a man who came to the doctor because of erectile dysfunction. And the doctor explained to him that what he was experiencing was like a warning sign for later development of cardiovascular disease with an increased risk of heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes. So, by changing his diet, he was able to help that man reverse his erectile dysfunction and reduce his risk to heart disease and stroke. What about the liver? Well, our liver deserves a lot of respect because one of its functions is to remove excess hormones and excess cholesterol from the body. So if you are eating high fat meals like salmon or omelets or bacon or chicken or beef or spam, all of these will have will contribute to increased estrogen in your body because they don't have any fiber. So fiber is necessary in your body to help the liver get rid of the estrogens and the cholesterol that your body makes. By filling your meals with animal products, you remove some of the space that should be taken up by fiber containing products, which fiber is only found in plants. So you want to increase your fiber intake, increase your plant intake, decrease the animal product intake because they don't have any fiber and because some of them will add to the hormone and cholesterol load. One of the reasons why sugar gets a bad rap is because there's a particular sugar in dairy products called lactose. Now, lactose, when it is broken down, it's like a twin sugar, a disaccharide. When it is broken down in your body, it produces glucose, which your body uses and needs, and another one called galactose. But one of the researchers has found that galactose is toxic to the ovaries. So that's part of why sugars can have been blamed for reducing fertility. But it's the dairy sugar, sugar from dairy products, milk, cheese, cream, butter, yogurt. Now, infertility does not kill you. However, a Swedish study began to indicate that the toxic effect of milk sugar, galactose, can result in an increased risk of ovarian cancer. So, according to Dr. Barnard, let me paraphrase in my words, milk is not your friend. So, reducing milk products from your diet can reduce cramps, erectile dysfunction, reverse infertility. And when it comes to cancer, specifically breast cancer, there's like a sweet spot for hormones like insulin or estrogen. If the estrogen is outside of that sweet spot and it's too high, it can actually go into the cells, impact the DNA, and cause the DNA to change and increase your cancer risk. The Women's Intervention Nutrition Study found that women who ate low fat, they reduced their risk of all cancers by 24%. If they ate low fat, they reduced their estrogen negative receptor breast cancers by 42%. And the estrogen positive receptor cancers, they reduced their risk by 15%. And the women who drank a lot of milk or butter or cheese, they had a higher risk of dying. So if they had already been diagnosed or treated for cancer, they had a higher risk of dying if they continued to eat dairy products by 40%. So when we're talking about cancer and eating foods that can impact our hormones and cancer, we always get the question of, what about soy? Well, one of the myths surrounding soy is that it might cause breast enhancement in men. So Dr. Barnard recommended that we do a little experiment. Who's up for an experiment? I thought you would be game. So here's the experiment. He said, the next time you go to the beach and you see a well-developed man with his shirt off that seems to be well endowed with breast tissue, make conversation and ask them when was the last time that they ate soy or tofu or tempeh or edamame? And he said that 99% of the time they would say, What? What are you talking about? I'm a beef and potatoes guy. I like hamburgers and hot dogs and steak and fish. So the idea that soy will lead to male enhancement of their breasts is completely false. What is happening in that man is that he's collecting fat cells. But fat cells are not just sit quietly and do nothing. Fat cells convert male hormone, testosterone, into estrogen, female hormones. And that is what is leading to the breast enhancement, not the soy. In fact, they did research on the soy products itself, and women with a diagnosis of cancer, if they add soy, it actually acts like a brake on the cancer. It reduces cancer risk. And for those who have already been diagnosed and treated for cancer, if they increase their soy intake, they have a lower mortality. So those that did not eat soy products had a higher mortality, and those that did eat soy products, they had a lower mortality or lower risk of dying. So soy is like the brake pedal. It does contain compounds that attach to estrogen receptors, but they attached to the estrogen beta receptors, so they're like a brake. There's no evidence that soy products cause cancer, but rather that they reduce the risk of cancer. And once diagnosed with cancer, they reduce the risk of dying from cancer. Dr. Barnard also spoke about the thyroid. And according to him, iodine, which is a component of the hormones that of the functioning of the thyroid gland, was usually incorporated into soy since 1924, when the Morton Salt Company added iodine to their salt. But in the 1980s and 90s and the beginning of this century, a lot of people moved away from salt because they were trying to reduce the amount of salt in their diet in an attempt to reduce or manage their high blood pressure. The other thing that they did is that they tried different types of salt. So they may have used salt that was non iodized salt. According to Dr. Barnard, not having a source of iodine can be the contributor to hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, but the biggest problem is an autoimmune condition where our bodies, reacting to some sort of infection, also attack the cells of the thyroid. So where can we get this iodine? And he said that iodine, some people actually get iodine from milk because the udders of the cow are sprayed with an iodine disinfectant because to clean the udders and remove some of the fecal bacteria. And so some of that disinfectant actually gets into the milk, and that's how milk can contain iodine. He also said that you can use sea vegetables like nori and wakame and seaweed, and that would be a source of iodine. When it comes to the autoimmune dysregulation, he says that some of the autoimmune products, they cause the thyroid to produce more thyroid hormones, and others cause the thyroid to produce less. So you can get either. And he says it's well known that foods can be triggers in autoimmune conditions. In fact, he recommended that anyone, especially a child with asthma, should be immediately placed on a totally whole food plant-based eating plan. And anybody with rheumatoid arthritis or Sjogren's or autoimmune skin conditions should also consider going immediately on on a whole food plant-based diet. When they looked at people who had hyperthyroid or hypothyroid, those who were hypothyroid, they found that the lacto-ovo vegetarians did the worst and the vegans did the best. And when it came to hyperthyroid, they found that the omnivores, people who were eating all different types of foods, did the worst, and those that were eating vegan did the best in terms of minimizing the effect of hypothyroid and hyperthyroid. Finally, we'll take a look at the hormone insulin. He actually received a grant in 2003 from the NIH to find out what is the best therapeutic diet for people with type 2 diabetes. And they found that using the standard therapies, you could improve your hemoglobin A1C by 0.4%. But by going on a whole food plant-based eating plan, you could improve your hemoglobin A1C by 1.2%. And he said that is miles better than any oral oral diabetes control medications. So he talked a little bit about what the cause of type 2 diabetes is. It's intramyocellular fat. So people who reduce the fat in their diet by eating no additional fats, they can immediately begin to see an improvement in their hemoglobin A1C, in their diabetic symptoms. And finally, he spoke about a case of a physician from Philadelphia, a Dr. Tony Saladar, Sadler, sorry, who was actually president of the Methodist Hospital in Philadelphia. He went on a basically plant-based diet. At that time, it was referred to, let me try to find the name of the type of a macrobiotic diet. And he was expected to live only about 3 to 6 months. But because he chose that macrobiotic diet, he lived very healthy with no, I mean, all of his labs reversed. And he remained that way for 10 years. But after 10 years, he decided to try something different. He decided to go back to eating the way he had before. And we don't know if he would have continued to live beyond those 10 years. We don't know for sure, but we do know he changed back to his original eating plan. He got off his macrobiotic diet, and within several months, he passed away. So I I want to encourage you. If what you're doing hasn't given you the results, whether you're taking vitamins, whether you're visiting a specific kind of physician, whether you're on an eating plan, if you've been doing this for a year, 3 years, 5 years, and you're still not seeing the results that you want, maybe it's time to make a change. I know that we love to eat the way we eat. And I know that so many of us are working really hard at staying away from Twinkies, Ho-Hos, Twizzlers, and Doritos. But that may not be enough. If we still have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, still have a high hemoglobin A1C, it means that we have to do more. And that's part of why we're here with you today. We're part of the Juice Plus Company, an organization that wants to inspire healthy living around the world, and an organization that's made the commitment to bringing high quality fruits, vegetables, and berries and omega oils to you at, an, at such an extremely reasonable price so that you can flood your body with the fruits and vegetables, with the grains, the legumes that your body needs to heal. You see, if I get a cut and I put a band aid over it, it's not the band aid that heals it. Inside our cells, our body is designed to heal. If I break my arm, it's not the cast that they're going to put over the arm that's going to heal it. The body is designed to heal, but you have to feed it the nutrients that it needs. So we have a way to help you. You've heard the good news. There's something you could do. And here's the first thing that you can do. You could jumpstart your healthy living journey by speaking to the person who invited you to this video and asking them, how can I get my fruits, vegetables, berries, omegas, complete shake, my superfood, my luminate? I want it all so that I can give my body what it needs, quality fruits and vegetables grown in pristine conditions, not picked until they are fully ripe. So they have the highest level of nutrients, that they're flash frozen and placed into capsules and concentrated into capsules so that you're getting high quality fruits and vegetables, the building blocks of your cells, so they can do what they were designed to do, which is to heal and stay healthy. We have 40 plus research studies. In fact, I'm going to Indianapolis next week. I hope you will be willing to join us, where we're going to have the Nutraceuticals in Medicine Conference, and we're going to hear about the research that shows that what we're doing is actually making a difference. They won't just be talking about Juice Plus, but they'll be showing the research of how making nutrition a major part of your eating plan can make a difference for you. The second thing that you can do is join me in October for our 25-day health reset. And we can do this together. I have a private Facebook group so that you can jump in and do it. If you're interested in getting more information, just type 25-day reset. And for those of you that participate, we'll introduce you, we'll share the link with you of how you can get a booklet prepared by Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine so that you can get recipes and different types of education and support so that you can make this journey, we can make this journey together. All right. I hope that you have gained some insights, some hope, some information that will be helpful to you. And if you know anyone who is suffering with some sort of hormone dysregulation, I encourage you to get Dr. Barnard's book. You can get it in the library, Your Body in Balance. I encourage you to review this video, to get get started on your Juice Plus products so that you can feed your body what it needs to heal, and get on our October reset. So put reset in the chat if you'd like more information. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon. And those of us that are in the room, you can unmute and share with our listeners what we say every time that we're together. We remind people to
eat
Eat more fruits and vegetables.
vegetables.
There you go. Eat more fruits and vegetables. This is Coach Carla Joy saying thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Please stay tuned for